bring in an analyst who has been very positive on Apple for a long time, but he's going to try to help us figure out what's going on today. The stock is down. He's Shaw Wu, analyst at Sterne Agee. Sean, great to have you on the show. And explain to me why you think the stock is down on a day when, in theory, there's another reason to go buy Apple stock.
Yeah, I think today there's slight disappointment that the hardware wasn't better. I mean, they had some nice enhancements like the dual-core processor and the much better in terms of the camera. But I think people were hoping for a bigger screen, and it looks like we're not going to get it this time around.
You think we'll get it with the 4G or the 5G? I mean, it's like there's always another G coming. How long do you have to wait?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is that when you talk to when we talk to the suppliers out in Asia, it seems like there's definitely work being done in terms of a larger screen, but Apple decided to not release it at this point. So we'll likely, we could see it, could occur next summer. It's hard to tell at this point, but the decision right now is, the 4S, as we've seen.
Is today's announcement, though, really just kind of a patch? In other words, they don't really have the hot new phone, so they're getting maybe a patch?
Well, I would say it's more than a patch. I mean, the software features were actually pretty incredible. They have the new iOS 5. They have iCloud, and those are like, first to market, the only in the market. And they also have this new Siri feature, in terms of the voice dictation software. And that's pretty nice. But in terms of software, the announcements were pretty big. But I think on the hardware side, I think people are hoping for a little bit more.
If you look at the sales growth for Apple, and we're talking about sales growth, the average amongst all the analysts, it was about 63%. Last year, 55% this year. That's the estimate. Next year, though, it's close to about 19%. So talk to me about how Apple can get that 19% higher, or can it not?
I think they can grow, faster than that rate. I mean, one of the things, frankly, we're still in the middle of a recession, and it doesn't make sense to forecast, too aggressively. But at the same time, as Apple said, they have only 5% market share in overall phones, so there's still a lot of headroom. And also, in the near term, they have the benefit of Sprint. They added Sprint as a third carrier here in the U.S. Kind of got lost in the noise, but we think that could be actually a pretty important driver here.
Well, and it's key because Sprint has, in effect, agreed to buy, 32 million phones? That's a huge deal for Apple, not necessarily such a good deal for Sprint, right? They might lose money on that deal.
Well, I think in the near term, they could take a hit. But, as we've seen with the iPhone with both AT&T and Verizon, ultimately it actually makes them more money because at the end of the day, you need to carry phones that users want. An iPhone is definitely one of them. And it's the phone that's arguably been a pain point for Sprint, and now they're fixing it. Now the 30 million units seems like a big number, but when you break down the math, it actually works out to about 2 million phones a quarter, and over 4 years. So we actually think it's doable.
Are you taking your numbers up because of that deal?
We're leaving our numbers, at this point. We're already above consensus. We're at 18 million phones for the September quarter, and then 24 million for the December quarter. We're comfortable with these numbers at this point.
Okay, Shaw Wu from Sterne Agee Securities, thank you for joining us. We will probably check back with you next week on the Apple Patrol.